I don't mind being late to the Project IJ party, but we are going to try and do this project a little different. What's going on, everyone? If you haven't heard lately, there's a project available on YouMagine called Project IJ, and I've got the start of one of them here in my hand. It's a 3D printable project that you can download the files from a website called YouMagine, which is a repository for RC-related 3D printing projects. Everything from like a full body like this to completely 3D printable cars to just small items that may, go along with whatever build you may already have. Super cool website with a lot of cool projects, this being one of the coolest ones on there. But as you can see, this is a Jeep-esque. It is not a Jeep. It's close, but it's not. As you can notice, it does not have 7 slots. Not saying that you can't find a file available that may, but that's not what we're after here today. I started printing this project this last weekend. I started Saturday night, printed it Saturday night, and Sunday was pretty much done during that time. Now, I didn't print everything. As you can see, this is not complete. I do have the hood here, which gets attached with some tiny hinges and some hardware, some latches, things like that. Things that will come in time. And then there's also a ton of other details that go on here, like body armor, things like that. There's also an interior and a roll cage that are all printable items. And then you basically decide what platform you're putting it on, as it is a multi-platform project. But the VS410 platform is one that's popular to do, easy mounts, a lot of adjustability and like customizability within that as well. And the VS410 is my obvious choice for this project. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about where I'm at and also how I'm going to do this project a little bit differently, as I want to do some things the way that I like them. As I mentioned, this has a 3D printable cage. I don't care for that. I would like to build an actual metal cage for it. So I've kind of started down that process, and we'll get into that detail a little bit later. Now, the VS410 platform in general, you can pretty much drop it onto super easy. However, I have one of the Portal Builders kits here that I had done for the release video quite some time ago, and it has a VFD Twin in it. The VFD Twin doesn't initially have enough clearance with this design. So I'm going to modify some of the files on here and reprint them so that I have plenty of room for clearance with this transmission and the servos that I plan to run within this project as well. And then I want to change some things up. Like I would like to run my version of seats that would drop in here instead of the version that is included for theirs. A few little things like that. And then also, this is a Portal Builders kit. It's got portal axles underneath of it, which is cool. I love portals, the F10 portals especially. But with the Project IJ, along with the number of platforms you can build this on, he also has all kinds of different options for things that you may want to change. And one of them that he has is an H10 axle body set, mount, brace set, whole thing that you can download so that you can easily drop H10 axles on here, which I have piled up here next to it. Now, these are built from the Vanquish H10 axle sets. So rather than buying an H10 optic and stripping the axles and links, I just built the axles from those sets that are available separately, and also added the new H10 brass knuckles from Vanquish onto them as well. So we're going to swap to these axles instead. So it'll be a straight axle, but it'll also be wider. It's going to give it a nice aggressive stance. So front and rear version of that, as well as an H10 link set, because that is needed for this. So it is going to make the wheelbase a little bit longer than we have here, but we're going to kind of work through a lot of this. There's a chance that I'll end up reprinting a number of parts on here. I don't mind that. We're just going to keep rolling through. Now, quickly before we dive into everything, if you do want to start this project on your own, on YouMagine, you can use code Harley20 to save 20%. I don't get anything back from it. It just saves you money. And it lets them know that I sent you, which you can use. SBG has a code too if you like that guy better. It doesn't matter to me. But what I have to do to get started at this point is I've got to go through and strip off basically everything between the frame rails here, other than the transmission and the skid plate, because I have to replace the sliders with these sliders that are made specifically to work with the H10 axle. There's some clearance differences there, as well as different shock tower mounts, cross members, trays here and there, a bunch of stuff. So I've got to get these cross members and everything removed. We're going to pull that servo out because that's got to go onto the H10 axle. And then I'll be able to get the new axles bolted into place. We can kind of see where we're going to set. This download set comes with some PDF instructions that you can follow easily enough to kind of make sure you're going in the right direction. So if you fancy yourself someone who reads instructions, you're in luck. I'm going to follow the directions, but not yet. I'm going to get to taking everything off of this first. So jump cut to that getting done, and then we'll be back. Went to town with the screw gun, and you basically disassemble the whole thing because by the time you get everything off, your frame rails are loose. So you take everything off, and then you're kind of restarting from there. Now, as going through this, the front servo mount cross member that goes in the VS410 chassis, the back portion of it is what the VFD mounts to at the motor plate side. Now, there are 3D printable mounts that will take the place of this so that you don't have to have this to mount the front of the VFD. But they are 3D printed, and 3D printed in some ways is never going to be, in many ways, is never going to be as good as a molded plastic. So if you don't want to use the 3D printed ones for whatever reason, you may have strength or whatever, on this cross member, there is a line that you can see see that line right there? If you just cut at that line, you can just use these still. So I'm just using a pair of tin snips. They cut off pretty easy. And then you can just use those front mounts again. So rather than having to use the 3D printed ones. Simple, stupid little thing. If that is something you would like to do, go for it. Now, from there, I'm going to start with putting the H10 version of the sliders onto the chassis. Again, there are instructions on the Umagine page, and I'll link to the Umagine page for the Project IJ, for the VS410, as well as the H10 conversion parts. Those are like a separate little purchase if you want the H10 version. Otherwise, the VS410 version is probably the more popular one rather than this way, but anyway, so I'm going to start getting these mounted up. Once I have the chassis all put back together, we'll reconvene here. Chassis reassembled with all of the 3D printed cross supports, except the very front bumper one, which maybe I forgot to print. I don't know. We'll figure that out. I'm not super worried about it. I do have a front bumper, but there's another cross brace that's supposed to go there. Not super important at the moment. We'll have plenty of time to get to that before this thing is done. But these cross members also have a number of pockets in them, and those are made for magnets because this body can basically just magnet into place, which makes it pretty easy. There is also hard mounting points in case you just want to secure it down permanently, which probably the route that I'm going to lean towards. However, I did buy the magnets that are suggested for this. So, we have some options. But this will be the first time that I'm actually able to mock this up into place. So it should just set down on top of it, which it pretty much does. Now, I'm not sure if the VFD twin is, no, it's not stopping me anywhere currently. I'll take that hood off, but now I don't have any magnets in this thing yet, so it's not locating, but yeah, it just sits right there. Okay, that's all. That's down in there pretty solid. There's no, I'm guessing that front mount would probably help locate that slightly better, but everything is setting about where it should, it appears. I do want to get the shocks reinstalled. I'll be using the, well, these are 80 mil shocks from the Portal Builders Kit. I'll mock this thing up with the 80s and we'll see how the H10s clear everything once we get it on there. Previously, I had this built with the XAT Yokohama Geolanders from Vanquish. These are only like 4.5. This is a 2.2 inch wheel, with a 4.5 tire. So it's just kind of a 1.9 stretched onto a 2.2. I'll probably go with a taller tire on this for the final, but let's get these shocks mocked up into place and just see how that 80 millimeter shock fits first, or if we're going to want to go to a 90 millimeter by the time this is done. Shocks mounted, wheels and tires back on, and starting to get kind of a look for this. It does appear that the VFD Twin clears for the most part. So really my biggest task is to be designing servo mounts and things like that that can fit in the back area there, since the stock cross brace isn't there any longer and there is no servo mounting worked into any of the cross braces that come with this. So I have a little bit of design work to do as far as that goes. And of course I need to make sure that the linkage for the transmission has room to move as well. But that's pretty minor in the big picture. Really, the big task that I've got ahead of me is the cage work. And that has been my focus and kind of the reason why I decided to fire this project up, because I got a new welder the other day that I've got in for a review purpose, and I needed a project. This seemed like a project that I wanted to do, and I much rather have a metal roll cage for it than a printed one anyway. So everything just kind of lined up, and this kind of goes together so quickly and easily that it wasn't like a big undertaking to do in the first place. Now, being that I use the H10 link set, you can see that this gives it that, pushed out bumper look. The rear links line up with the fender wells fantastic. There is another version of this rear tub where it's called comp cut, which is where it doesn't dive back down in the rear. Instead, it just goes straight and kind of around. So it gives you more clearance, and it may be a little bit bobbed. I'm not really sure on that part. I don't remember. There's just a lot of options, a lot of versions. Tailgates, no tailgates, half cab, 3D printed tops, full tops. Again, you can just 3D print the cages in multiple versions. There's opening doors. There's doors that are fixed, closed. So many different options. It really is a super cool project. I initially printed the hood that was in the body set, and it's got these like screw locations in the front, I guess, to hold it down. I just printed that without really paying too much attention. Later on, I do have the hood upgrade set as well on my Imagine account. So I printed that version, and this is made to have like an armor panel that will go on there. So I'll get that done also. But overall, I'm looking forward to kind of getting this to the next step. Now, you're looking at it from the side, you can see that pushed out front. What you haven't seen yet is the much more aggressive width of the H10s rather than the F10s. And I think that is going to look really good, especially when I get some more aggressive tires on this. Like I said, these are only a 4.5, but I mean, the clearance is actually about kind of, it's pretty close to maxed. It will work with a 4.75 tire, and that's what I'm going to end up running. I don't know which ones yet. I mean, I could just go to the new Toyos, which are 4.65, but I think I'll probably end up going to a 4.75, and we'll just find what we've got around, or I'll pick up a set of crawlers or something. Who knows? We'll figure it out from there. If you're interested in doing the cage as well, you want to weld that up, it'll be a mix of 3D printed fixtures as well as some send cut send pieces, things like that. Drop a comment below in case you're just looking for a quick, reasonably quick cage project to go along with a build as fun as this. I think it'll be a blast. This isn't going to be a build along like I've done with the buggies and things like that in the past, because it is going to be simple. I'm just going to finish it, make sure that everything's good, and then the fixtures and stuff like that, I'll make sure you guys can get a hold of. But I'm looking forward to finishing this thing. I think that I'm going to do all of the armor and some actual aluminum as well. Maybe titanium. Probably just aluminum. I think aluminum will be fine for the purposes of what we've got going on. So I'll do the armor that goes all the way up and around. We'll do the hood armor. Maybe I'll put my logo in the center of it, something like that. And yeah, you're gonna be good. I printed this all out of ABS glass fiber filament from Bamboo on my H2D. The ABS glass fiber is amazing. I love this filament. It gives you such a nice finish to it without any work. You can see that these are thin. Like these panels are thin. Like you can see my finger. So, but it gives you, this one I had like this weird ghosting line here. I'm not really sure what happened there, but didn't happen on the other one. So I love the ABS glass fiber. This is technically the white, even though it's definitely a hint of a gray to it. The black looks phenomenal. That's the one I would suggest, but the black is what I've printed all of like the cross members and things like that out of. However, I don't like it for video on a body because it's hard to see. So that's why I decided to go with this. And I was also thinking that I was going to maybe sand, prime, and paint this, but the finish came out in a way that I'm pretty happy with. So I'm thinking about just leaving it, cladding it with the armor, calling it good, and just moving along with this project. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Let me know what you guys think. If you are into these, if you've already done one, I'm by no means on the leading edge of these projects. Tons and tons of people have done them. If you've done one already, let me know what your favorite version of some of these file sets are. So anyway, drop a comment below. Always appreciate reading those. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're not already. If you're interested in channel membership, you get to see these videos early, ahead of time. If that sounds like something you would like, you'd like to support the channel a little bit extra, link down in the description below. Come back for more. See when we get this thing knocked out. I'm hoping to have this cage done pretty soon. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.